DraftKings running back analysis for Week 6. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Looking at some Week 6 running backs here, GPP value and cash. You're looking at guys here, and it looks like your kind of idea of the week is to really pay up.
Yeah, I just think, with sort of the rejuvenation of, the feature running backs this year, it just seems super viable, and it seems like we're getting low ownership on these guys every week. So I'm looking at, we'll talk about the cash game options first. There are some values as well. One guy I didn't throw in there that you've been kind of excited about since we first talked this week is James Starks. Obviously, if Eddie Lacy doesn't go, I'm definitely with you on that. But if he does, so paying up for cash games is how I'm playing this. I want Le'Veon Bell against the Dolphins. I wrote him up in the cheat sheet. I described it as, Bell and Brown are going to be, racing to the fantasy finish. They're just going to be fighting each other for these fantasy points. I actually think both can end up doing pretty well. But overall, I mean, at 7,900, I'm certainly okay with Le'Veon, against this Dolphins defense, even on the road. We've seen in the past where, the Steelers road splits aren't nearly as good as they are at home. But in terms of Bell and Brown, that shouldn't really affect them from a yardage standpoint. Maybe we just look at the kicker, Chris Boswell, a little bit more this week. But overall, I mean, Miami has some good players on the defensive line, but in terms of secondary, and we've seen Le'Veon, split out as a receiver quite a bit already this year. I think that's a clear move there.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you look at him, he's racking up the yards in his first two outings. Hasn't found the touchdown yet, and he's still coming across 20-plus points. So once he finds that end zone, which I think is going to be this week, it's icing on the cake.
Again, that 35-point game is coming, I wouldn't put it against him to have 100 rushing and 100 receiving yards in this game. I really wouldn't. LeSean McCoy is the other guy, 6,900. I think this one is just about as easy as Bell, though I do like Bell. And in terms of upside, I think, dollar for dollar, McCoy and him are right next to each other. You just look at what McCoy's done in the last 3 games, 200 yard, two games over 110 total yards. On less than 20 carries in both of them. So I think we're really looking at McCoy as a tremendous option against this Navarro Bowman-less 49ers run defense. It's just 6,900, not even 7K. You kind of look at the receivers in that range. You look at, the tight ends in that range. It's just so cheap for 20 points. McCoy's been over 20 DK points each of the last 3 weeks, had a touchdown each of the last 3 weeks. He looks back, he looks like McCoy from 2014. So I'm in. I think this is an easy cash play.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you look at that total, you look at his usage in touches. I mean, it's hard not to really like him just because, one, not a bad price. I mean, obviously it's expensive for a running back, but in comparison to the other guys on the slate with what he's been doing in terms of consistency and even upside, McCoy's easy a top back this week.
Certainly. If those guys weren't there, I also like DeMarco Murray, but McCoy just by a little tiny bit. Carlos Hyde is my top paydown option this week, 5,100. Now, I do like the Bills' defense. I just think Hyde, we saw it a few weeks ago against Seattle. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the score is. Chip Kelly's going to be running the ball in the fourth quarter with his starters. So 5,100 for a guy who's already had 2 multi-touchdown games, 4 touchdowns in his last 5, getting the rushing volume, 20-plus carries a game. I just think this one's really easy in terms of volume. You're just going to get so much. Obviously saw 6 receptions last game. I just think this one's pretty easy.
I do too. I mean, you want to talk about consistent workload. Hyde pretty much nails it, and his price really hasn't been up there on DK in quite some time. Ryan Matthews, you also talk about at 4,900. Great matchup against Washington. Both him and Sproles in players are just more Matthews.
Both are in play. And so I kind of made those three options sound really easy because they are. And then the rest is just an absolute mess. It's just terrible to look at. This slate is terrifying in a lot of ways. But that's good for tournaments. And I think that's good for us with Darren Sproles and Ryan Matthews. I think you can fire away with both. Sproles at 44, Matthews at 49. Not in the same lineup, but individually. I think you're looking at, Matthews is the goal line guy when they get there. Washington's been a swinging gate so far this year. I look at Matthews as a guy who could get, 80 yards and a touchdown, maybe a few catches, and really hit that 16 to 18 points that you really need at 49 in a tournament. So I like that. Sproles, you're kind of just banking on, him hitting a big one. Based on the Eagles, play composition so far this year, it seems they're really dead set on spreading it out every game. I love Zach Ertz. I like Jordan Matthews. But it doesn't seem like the volume's going to be there. It looks like they want to get Sproles' touches every game. Obviously got stopped at the 1 last game, which would have changed his score considerably. Obviously already had a big game this year against the Steelers. I like Sproles. I think he's a worthy gamble in a tournament, and especially with lineup construction again. Antonio Brown is looming against this Dolphins D. So a lot of your lineups are going to be based on, all right, if I want to fit Brown in here, how am I going to do that? Last guy here, I wrote in TJ Yeldon. Obviously got off to a slow start in terms of yards per carry and yards per catch. Still getting the volume. Chris Ivory hasn't been as much of an impact as people thought when he was signed this offseason. Coming off last game, 14 carries for 71 yards, not bad. I mean, I know it was against an easy defense, but this Bears team certainly hasn't been, shut down. They did shut down the Lions the last time they played at home, but overall, I think this Jaguars team is very interesting from a tournament sense. I think you can throw him in a stack with Bortles and Allen Robinson and actually get some pretty high upside in terms of correlation. Maybe throwing a Zach Miller there as well, and I'm just giving you guys whole lineups for just when I'm talking about TJ Yeldon for no reason. That doesn't make any sense. But in terms of Yeldon, I think his projection might be a little higher by the end of the week than we expect.
Yeah, I definitely do too. I mean, especially in this matchup, I think this one's kind of sneaky because, you look at these two offenses, it's not lackluster, but it seems like, you're going to get about 21 to 24 points. You got to figure out where that's going to come from on each side. And I think Yeldon's a good way because we really haven't seen Hearns emerge as kind of that weapon that we did last year.
Definitely.
So any kind of parting words here?
Yes. I have a LaRon Landry jersey on. I'm sorry. You know how people say sorry, not sorry? No, I'm sorry. That's not appropriate.
But you know what? In terms of your jersey rankings that I've seen you in, but
that's not so bad.
It's just been this one in Beanie Wells, so I only have a two jersey sample.
I have a Darren McFadden too.
What team?
Raiders.
Oh boy.
Hold on. Let me think of. I had a Dan Marley Suns jersey back in the day.
Okay.
I had a Sir Charles Suns jersey. I had an Eddie Jones Miami Heat jersey.
Digging deep.
And in terms of everything else, that's it, I think.
Okay.
And Shaq, of course. Multiple Shaq jerseys on the Heat.
On the Heat?
I was a big Heat guy.
No Magic Shaq?
No.
Okay. It's as long as it's not Lakers, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap things up for the Week 6 DraftKings running back analysis. Be sure to head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com. Check out our great tools and content. If you like Russell's jersey selection, be sure to give us a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel.